What's going on, folks? Welcome back to an episode of Steelers Breakdown. Steelers schedule officially revealed today. We have all 17 games of the Steelers schedule in order. Four primetime games, a standalone international game in Dublin, of course, and then two late afternoon slots against the Bills and the Detroit Lions. So let's talk about some takeaways from this and just kind of my initial thoughts. First of all, I truly believe that this league believes the Steelers are signing Aaron Rodgers. And you look at the schedule, the Jets in week one, I certainly think it screams that. I mean, I guess at worst, if you're scheduling that, Justin Fields faces his former team. And at best, you got Aaron Rodgers there too, and it's a double whammy. But to me, that says you think he's coming. Putting Green Bay week eight in the primetime schedule. Again, that seems like it. Four primetime games is enough. A standalone game's more. And then two late afternoon windows where you're going to have the top announcing team for those networks. One's on Fox, one's on CBS, calling that game. Tells me you expect the Steelers to at least be in playoff contention. So to me, this showcases a clear vision for them to believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's one stretch of the schedule that I think is really hard. Week 13 on. I really think you got the Bills, you got at Baltimore. That's not going to be easy. Buffalo to Baltimore. Then you get a nice 8-day break. You have the Dolphins coming to town. Okay. Then you go on the road on a short week to Detroit. That's a tough one. So that four-game stretch there's tough. Then you have Cleveland on the road. That's not been an easy venue for the Steelers to go into, even if you don't think Cleveland's going to be good this year. That has been a house of horrors for them in recent memory. And then they finish it out with Baltimore at home. I mean, that's a really hard schedule. And even before that, right? I mean, you can go back to week 10 if you really want to. You got the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. And you got the Bengals at home. So it's like you got some legitimate problems in there, right? It's not an easy schedule by any means in terms of the back half of it. They have really, and then you got Chicago at Chicago too. Chicago probably is going to be better this year. They have really loaded the back half of the Steelers schedules in recent years, and they have a week five bye this year. The Steelers will get that because of the double game. So the week five bye is going to be the earliest bye they've had since 2013. So they better be healthy in that stretch. But that's a really tough stretch. That week 13 on, to be quite honest with you, it is the toughest stretch probably in the NFL to end the season there. So it's a tough one. It's not quite what it was last year. Last year was just absolutely insane. All six divisional games, plus the two teams that went to the Super Bowl, an unbelievably hard schedule. Those were on short weeks, odd days. It was really bad. Not even going to be close to what it was last year, but still not easy. The early season schedule, though, it's kind of light. I don't think it's super hard. At the Jets, home against the Seahawks, at the Patriots, in Dublin against the Vikings. You got Cleveland week six. You got your bye. You go at Cincinnati. That's not an easy game on Thursday night. But it's just not a debilitating first 9 weeks of the season. And then you got Green Bay coming Sunday night. That's a tough game. And then you go at home still against the Colts. It's not a tough game. So a lot of your easier games are early in the season. And so the Steelers better start off quick, right? They don't want to head into this stretch at the end of the year and have to play catch up if they want to make the playoffs. So that back half of the schedule again just looks really daunting. Meanwhile, the early half of the schedule to me, there's some tough games mixed in there because it's the NFL, but I don't think that's a very hard early beginning of the schedule. Steelers are right now kind of around that ninth overall strength of schedule, a little higher probably. They have that second place schedule in the AFC North. Listen, the layout of the schedule to me uh, doesn't present obvious disadvantages to the Steelers, aside from the fact that their backloaded schedule is very hard, but you have to spread out divisional games this time. It's not atypical there. You have the early bye week, but that's typical with international games. I don't think the Steelers necessarily asked for that, but they got it. So week five bye week. We'll see how that kind of works. About this again, 2013 was the last time they did this, and that was the last time they went to London and faced the Vikings there. So it's going to be a little different for the Steelers this year to have that early bye week. Their bye week last year was week 9, so just very different in terms of that. For primetime games, not a lot of mileage to travel this year for them. The Steelers only have really two long games, Dublin and Los Angeles. I mean, everything else is either, within the central time zone, or the eastern time zone. I mean, they go to Chicago. That's not super far. That's in the central time zone, but you got road games at Detroit, at Foxborough, at New York, your divisional games. It's not a crazy road schedule. It's not a gauntlet, where they have to travel all over the map. That's for sure. So despite the Dublin game, they have the ninth fewest traveled miles this year. So that's impressive, I think, in terms of it all. So they're not going to be super jet lagged or anything like that. This schedule plays out to be a tough schedule. One, because they play in the AFC North, so it's going to be hard not to have a tough schedule. Two, because they play the NFC North, that's a really good division. And three, the backloading of their schedules in recent years has just been clear. Is to get the Steelers into primetime games because the Steelers have been routinely involved in the playoff race. They've made the playoffs in the 4 out of the last 5 years, and the one year they didn't, they went 9-8. And so that has really actually, I think, spurned the NFL on to backloading the Steelers' schedule because there's a really good shot those games matter, especially when you play teams like the Dolphins, like the Bills, like the Lions, and other teams like that are going to be playoff teams probably, and it's going to matter to them. So that's why they backload the Steelers' schedule. It's because the Steelers are just a reliable playoff team or at least contender. Their games matter late in the year, and so that is a big thing. And so the Steelers also getting the Ravens in Week 18, right? That could be a Sunday night game, whatever. Um, that would not surprise me at all if that is a prime time game. If when it comes around, that has routinely been one that they have flexed into prime time contention. During the year they were, for example, 9-8, and they made that late run with Kenny Pickett in his rookie year. That was a primetime Sunday night football game. And so these games kind of stack up there. And so I don't think this schedule is terrible for the Steelers. It was always going to be a tough schedule just because of the divisions and the opponents they ended up playing. The second place schedule on top of that, you end up getting the Chargers in there. But the early part of the schedule is not bad. I mean, really, the Steelers should start strong. I think you can argue by week 9, they could have a similar start to last year, and really get out ahead of the barrel in some ways. I think that they could do that. Now, the back half of the schedule is where they're going to be tested, and do they have the roster built for that? I think that'll be answered very quickly as well. So they'll find out how real this team is leading into the playoffs. So very similar schedule to last year, but far less daunting just because of the structure of it, because of the lack of craziness of it all. The early bye week is the wrench that gets thrown in here, and we'll kind of see how that goes. It's going to be a lot of punishment down the stretch, of course, when you have to play 13 straight games with that week 5 bye. But we will kind of see how that all works out. Steelers do have a second built-in kind of mini bye there in week 7 through 8 when they have the Bengals into the Sunday night game. So they'll have a nice built-in kind of mini bye right there in the middle of the year on top of that. So that helps a little bit. And then late in the year, they get the 8 days between their game against the Ravens to the Dolphins game. So when you're coming out of that really physical game against Baltimore, you do at least get that rest, the extra day of rest. That's nice to have. So we'll see kind of how this goes about. But I think the schedule is far less daunting than it was last year, which was just an absolute horror show, I think, right out of the bat. This is not as bad. The backload schedule is tough. We'll figure out where the Steelers end up going from there because we'll figure out real quick. But at least it's Sunday to Sunday. There's a Monday game mixed in there, but it's not like some crazy deviation where they went Saturday and then to a quick play a game against the Chiefs in a short period. They had the Thursday night game in week 11 last year, and then they played on a Wednesday. So they basically had two Thursday nights, Tuesday night weeks, and one of them was going Ravens to Kansas City. and then the game before that was Eagles, and it was just an insane schedule. So just not nearly as insane this year. And so we'll see how the Steelers go about this. I think the schedule shows the NFL clearly expects them to sign Aaron Rodgers. And so we'll see. If you guys have any questions about the schedule, feel free to ask. I'll be on the road for all these games, of course. So if you guys are around and want to say hi, let me know. I'll be around. So make sure to send any messages, anything like that. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell for more, folks. Thanks for listening.